Well, hello, I'm here with Doug. I'm going to talk about Roofman, but we have other topics, and it's Friday, May 3rd, 2024. So go
So,
ahead, Doug, with the FCC.
yeah, so Sam, wait, it's gonna rain tomorrow. You gonna get your roof man out there? Yeah,
A
okay.
different one.
Different one. Okay. Might it be some attackers?
Not exactly.
Okay. Let's keep people in suspense. So this is a pretty interesting one. Guess who got fined again? AT&T, Sprint, which is now part of T-Mobile, T-Mobile and Verizon, I believe are all being fined nearly $200 million, not collectively, but individually, for illegally sharing location data. Have you heard about this?
I saw the news articles, so I think that people didn't know this. I didn't know this. I knew the apps on your phone sell the data, but I didn't know the telco carrier itself is just selling your data.
Yeah. Now, if you dig into the story a little bit, it's the telco carriers were told you can't sell the data. And they said, okay, we won't sell it, but we'll make it available. And if you do use it, then you have to pay us for it.
So that's I'm not even sure that Bill Clinton could make that fine distinction there
Well, that's what they were doing is they were making it available to people
for money,
and
but
for
not sell,
money.
but not just
Now,
not
they
sell.
weren't selling it, but
Yeah,
they said if you do use it, then you have to pay it for us. Now, you know, you would have to argue $200 million, that would bankrupt me, bankrupt most people.
I suppose.
But AT&T, what is this? Maybe a half hours or
Yeah,
15 minutes worth of profit or a
something like
minute's
that.
worth of profit. I don't know. We'd
Yeah,
have to do the math on that, but something ridiculous like that.
yeah, but it might be enough to make him not do it again.
No, I don't think so.
Well, I think the point is once you get caught, you have to usually. I know the FTC rulings typically include like auditing you for 10 years to make sure you don't do it again and things like that. I'm not sure about the FCC.
Yeah, but here we go. This leads into my second story that after the FCC doled out these big privacy fines, turns out that maybe they're going to lose that power.
Well, yeah, but that's because national privacy legislation will pass. This is quite common.
Yeah,
But
yeah,
I don't know if that's really going to pass. But it probably would be good if we had national privacy legislation.
yeah, but yeah, it would be nice. We should have it, I would argue, but we'll see what our politicians will do
Well, it
and
all depends
who's,
on the next election, which is going to greatly
yeah.
determine the direction here. Because I mean, the 2025 is to dismantle the administrative state and just get rid of agencies like the FCC.
Yeah, and let's see where that takes us.
Yeah, yeah.
All right, what's your first story? Tell me about Roofman. What's going
I
on
think I
with the
better talk.
roof
Yeah,
there?
I better start with Roofman. This is amazing, and they are going to make a movie of it. There was this guy.
Really?
Yeah, there was this guy in California who was in the military, and then he got out, and he started just living. First, he started making money by breaking into McDonald's. He would get power tools and climb on the
Oh,
drill through the roof and go down. And then he was super polite. He would say, "Oh, please, why don't you people make sure you get your coat? Now I'm going to lock you in the freezer, but it'll only be for a little while I steal the money." And then he'd call the cops and tell them to come let them out of the freezer. And he did it like dozens of times. They couldn't catch him because he was very smart. And then eventually he wandered around, but he eventually found a Toys R Us and another company like a Circuit City or something. He and lived in an abandoned Toys R Us and just went on for months or a year this way, robbing stores, stealing things out of the Circuit City and living in the abandoned Toys R Us. And he went to church and had a girlfriend and had all these toys to give her kids and stuff. And was just everyone super polite. And when the cops caught him, he was like, "Oh, what an excellent job you did! You caught me." They put him in jail, and he just stayed there for 4 years, and then he escaped, of course, and just did it all again. It's a story sort of like that Frank Abagnale, the guy that fooled everybody. It's one of these criminals who is sort of charming and polite and friendly and didn't hurt anybody. I think he once hurt somebody, but anyway, it's going to make a good movie.
so they're making a movie out of him?
Oh yeah, you got it. This guy is
Ah,
like a TV series about the charming criminal that is a sympathetic figure, and
yeah. So let me give you what I know about this. First off, you mentioned Frank Abagnale.
yeah,
And so the movie with Tom Hanks and DiCaprio,
yeah,
what was that? Probably 12 years ago now,
12 or
maybe
15.
longer.
Yeah,
Yeah. Catch Me If You Can, very good movie. And what's even more interesting is Frank Abagnale was invited to give a Google talk, which is on YouTube.
uh,
And he talked about his life and how accurate the movie was. And he said, it was very accurate for my life. And I hope to live, out after I committed these crimes. He became an advisor to the FBI, where he's been working for about 30 years. He is not an agent. He can't be because he's a convicted felon, but
yeah,
he was an advisor to him. And he talked about working with the FBI. And it's kind of an interesting story. Now, the person you're talking about, I know that a book was written and it's called I can't recall the name of the book, but it's Architectural Theft. And what made it so easy is that all the McDonald's are designed the same. All the Burger Kings are designed the same. So it was kind of like stealing from any of the restaurants was like fast food. It
right.
was fast money because they're all designed the same. They all work from the same manual. They all have the same procedures.
So he knew like
So,
what part of the roof to drill through.
yep, yep, he knew everything. And I know for Toys R Us, when he was living in a fake wall behind Toys R Us.
Mhm.
He set up closed circuit TV cameras and he was actually changing people's hours
Yeah,
in staffing, things like that. He would go out in the store, and you're right, he would steal products and bring them back into his little cave that he made in Circuit City. And I can't remember how he was eventually caught, but I'll tell you, is this going to be a Netflix movie? It's going to be good. I can
yeah.
tell.
Yeah, and of course, the last thing to mention about Frank Abagnale is, in case anybody didn't think so, it turned out it was all lies. He didn't actually do any of that airplane stuff or anything. But just like Kevin had mentioned,
Wait. What do you mean he didn't do the airplane?
about 2 years ago, it came out that they looked for evidence he didn't actually do most of those exploits. His whole thing is he lies and tricks people. So, of course, most of his stories are just lies. In retrospect, why would anybody believe anything this guy said?
You know, you're absolutely true. But so are you telling me that he didn't fake the what was it?
Well, he claimed
T
to have flown an airplane and done
TWA?
surgery and done all these things. It turned out most,
No, no, no. He said that he never, at least in the Google interview,
yeah.
he never flew a plane, but he
Oh,
was always the jump seat.
okay.
And I think he was a doctor, but he never treated any patients. That part I don't recall.
Yeah.
And he was also a lawyer, and he would have passed the bar in Louisiana had he not had a crime spree.
Yeah. Well, anyway, that's
So
Roofman.
yeah, so do you know who's the star? If they announced it?
They haven't
Okay.
announced it yet, but it should be good. Yeah.
So let me tell you, there was another one. This is a movie that got made, didn't get finished, and it's Barry Minkow. Have you ever heard of Barry?
I don't think so.
So Barry Minkow at 19, 8, no, sorry, at 16, 17 in LA started ZZZZY Carpet Cleaning Company.
Mhm.
And he, like some others have done, cooked the books, but he was making millions of dollars driving to high school in a Lamborghini. And he was doing really well with his carpet cleaning business. You can still see his ads on YouTube, but he made a lot of money by cooking the books. He went public on the stock, his stock, ZZZY carpet cleaning service got sold until one day Wall Street wanted to look at his books because they look kind of funny. So in Sacramento, California, he rented an office. He brought Wall Street up there. He paid the security guys to say, "Good morning, Mr. Minkow. Nice to see you again." But as Wall Street kind of took a look, they looked at the furniture and it seemed too sterile to them.
Yeah.
So they realized that he was cooking the books. They threw him in jail. So he spent 5, 7 years in jail, became a priest, got out of jail, goes to San Diego. He's now charismatic, and he's taken over kind of a church that's falling by the wayside. In the meantime, he's working with the FBI to help him solve like cyber crimes. But like what he committed, kind of like Frank Abagnale, he was an advisor. But at the same time, he was doing YouTube extortion.
Yeah.
And yeah, YouTube extortion ads. So in other words, your stock is going to fall,
Oh,
and I'm going to put this YouTube video up there that's going to have your stock plummet if you don't cooperate with me. So he was making money, but
yeah.
finally, one of his parishioners was a contractor who got screwed by Lennar Homes. And by this time, Barry wanted to make a movie about his life called Barry Minkow, and he wrote the script himself, and he decided to start funding it. And the star that he was going to get to represent him, he was looking for somebody who was really well known but hadn't really done any acting recently, and that was Mark Hamill from Star Wars.
Oh my.
So but he didn't have enough money to finish the movie. So he goes out and does an extortion against Lennar Homes. Lennar, they're the builder out of Texas, and they build, these massive home subdivisions, and they've been around for a number of years. And Barry asked them for $6 million, or your stock is going to tank. And being from Texas, the lawyers and the Lennars, or whoever runs Lennar, I don't know if it's the Lennar family, said, "Go right ahead, little man. You sue us." So Barry comes back and says, "Wait a minute. How about we do 2 million?" And the lawyer laughs, saying, "Wait, you're playing let's make a deal?" And so he goes to 1 million, and he says, "No, no, no. How about 500,000?" So Lennar said, "Screw you." He did release the video. Lennar's stock tanked by about 50%,
Mm.
but they went back in, they arrested Barry, he went back to jail, and he recently got out. I saw pictures on Amazon of Barry Minkow, the movie, but I never saw, I don't think it was ever finished. I don't think it was ever released. So maybe like with Abagnale, he's out there cooking away to finish his movie, but I don't think Mark Hamill's available to finish it.
You know, I've I had a bad feeling about FBI assistants from the criminal world. There was a guy around here, um, that there was a contractor at City College that made a big deal about how he worked with the FBI, and he turned out to just be a crook, swindling stuff. It seems to happen
Yeah.
pretty often that they get these really crooked people that sort of hoodwink the FBI agents.
Yeah, there's one more I know. A book was written out of this. I don't know if a movie was created, and the book was called The Art of Making Money. And Art, I think, was the guy, and his art was making counterfeit money that was very, very good.
Yeah.
And it's kind of his story, but he eventually got arrested by the FBI and was taken in. And the FBI said, "Hey, if you come talk to us, talk to FBI agents about counterfeiting, we'll lighten your sentence a little bit." So he did. He agreed to do it, and there he is in his hotel room while he's given a talk, FBI, and it was FBI only. So they said, "You got to go up into your hotel room, stay there." So while he was there, he was bored and he started counterfeiting again. And when the when the FBI walked in on him, the line he said was, you know, "You guys don't pay enough.
Oh, yeah. Well, yeah.
That's why I have to counterfeit some more."
Well,
Anyway,
problem. That's the problem with crooks.
yeah,
They'll fall back to form.
yeah. So this is a remake, interesting movies on crime.
Yeah,
So we'll see. I'll tell you, I think that'll make for a very good, interesting movie.
I hope so. Anyway,
Yeah.
you got audio emojis. I never heard of these.
Oh, Google just added these, right? This is funny. These are audio emojis to Android. Right now, it's in beta and general availability will happen soon. But while you're on a telephone call, you can just press the three buttons and it brings up a menu, audio emojis, and you can do things like, Sam, I'm gonna like the movie, or I'm gonna like that movie. Ta-da!
Yeah.
So you can play things like that.
I'd run the
To
rim shot and the sad trombone. Those would be the ones I
Oh, yep, both of those are in there.
yeah,
But you know what the most popular one has been?
probably the fart.
Yeah, farts.
Yeah.
So I can tell.
I
I
bet
can.
they're not going to put them in Apple.
Yeah, I don't think they're an Apple. And what they also decided to do is add a cool down period, so you can't just fart, 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 fart. But you know who they're going to be using these on are
Uh,
the scammers,
oh, that's a
right?
good idea. Yeah. Yeah. Remember
So
Elon, when they first made the Tesla, it was too quiet and he needed to add a noise and
yeah.
he put like a humming noise, but he actually at one time wanted to put farting noise in there. Yeah. Well, nothing
So
but
anyway, that's a feature that's going to drive everybody away from Apple to Android.
I was thinking maybe the other direction, but anyway, all right.
We'll see. All right, Sam, what do you got for us?
I got a blast from the past. There have been a
Oh,
bunch
good.
of path traversal vulnerabilities, and I remember a talk I watched 10 years ago when a pen tester was saying, so I'm checking for path traversal vulnerabilities. Now, path traversal hasn't worked since Jesus Christ walked the earth. The reason you do this is not because it's going to work, but to fingerprint the firewall in use, the web application firewall. But in fact, there's been a whole bunch of path traversal vulnerabilities that came out recently. So CISA has officially said, when you get a file name from the user, check and make sure it doesn't have dot dot slash in it. Come on, guys. I thought we knew this. But a
So,
bunch of
Sam,
products like Microsoft had a product in Android apps where you have an intent send from one app to another, and you can put dot dot slash in the file name and traverse to the wrong place. And a bunch of vulnerabilities have come out like that. So things never go away.
Sam, for our younger listeners,
Yeah.
explain just shortly what a path traversal is,
Yeah,
since
I
it's
know it's
such
good to
an
explain it
such an
because
ancient attack.
I know unless you actually use the command line, you won't notice, but the
Yeah,
dot dot slash moves to the parent folder. So if you have a web server serving up a page, you can go to the URL and put dot dot slash and traverse out of the folder where the web page lives over into other folders on the machine. And you used to be able to take over Windows machines back in the days of Windows NT by going to like url.com and then dot dot slash Windows slash cmd.exe, and you just get a command prompt right in the browser. It was bloody awesome. And so everybody fixed it like around 95, or so
yeah.
we
I mean,
thought.
yeah. So what is that? That's 30 years, huh?
Yeah, 30 years ago. But the
Holy
problem is
smoke.
that means there's the whole new generation of programmers that haven't learned this. And now anytime you get a name of a file from the user, you have to remember to check to make sure it doesn't have like these special characters in it that will traverse out of that folder.
Yeah, yeah. Interesting, huh?
Yeah.
All right, my turn.
Yeah.
Well, I brought this up, shoot, about a month ago, month and a half ago,
Yeah.
that Apple is rumored to be releasing new products.
Yes.
And it looks like it's going to be next week,
There's been an
or
official announcement, so I think it's true.
yeah, okay. So, new iPad with the M4 chip. And it's the big bonus, the big news is Apple's going to include AI.
Yeah.
And I'll tell you what's interesting is in this AI race, the one that hasn't been there that we've not talked about that I'm aware of is Apple in the
Apple's
AI
been
race.
quiet, but
Yeah.
suppose they've been developing one behind the scenes. There've been some rumors maybe they're going to buy it from another company. But last week, I installed the latest Meta API Llama 3 on my MacBook, and it runs just fine. So you can totally run them on a small device.
Yeah. And I've heard I haven't been following AI, but a little bit on the news. Genesis which is from Google, right? Alphabet.
Gemini, I think.
I'm sorry, Gemini. Yeah,
Yeah.
you are correct. From Alphabet from Google is supposed to be very good now,
Yes,
is
they've
what I'm
all
hearing.
gotten much better. The latest versions of all of them now write code much better. They understand questions much better. They made a big leap forward.
Yeah, so AI has been learning from itself, or maybe from each other.
Well, that'll
Yeah,
come, but not yet. Now they're still being
yeah,
programmed by humans to get
yeah,
smarter, but they're putting in more clever layers of attention and stuff to make them better able to parse sentences and such.
yeah, understood,
They're getting
understood.
much more powerful.
Yeah, yeah. So, we'll see.
Yeah, but they'll run locally on the Apple.
Yep. All right. You have another story for
I
us.
got a few small ones here. The U.S. government has warned of Russian hacktivists targeting water facilities in America, more OT attacks, and they say they're mostly sort of nuisance, of course, like the other ones we've seen, but it is a thing. It's really happening. That's why OT security is getting a lot of attention these days. And there was a security consultant who went to a company. He was the cybersecurity consultant. He found their vulnerabilities, and then he extorted them, saying, "I'm going to publish your vulnerabilities publicly unless you pay me money." And he just did it directly, so they just prosecuted him. He's going to jail. But I mean, I remember you signed this NDA whenever you do security work.
Yeah,
Exactly this reason. You're going to learn stuff that is not public,
yeah.
and you have to shut up. So I always tell my students, it's just like being a lawyer or a doctor. You're going to learn things that are not public information, and you have to shut up.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, yep,
Yep.
yep.
And then the last one was GitLab. GitLab has a severity 10 vulnerability, and um, apparently a lot of people haven't patched it. I didn't know this. Apparently, a lot of federal agencies use GitLab because GitHub is the public place where you can develop code, but GitLab you can put on your own server and therefore
I
maintain
see.
compliance. And they haven't been patching it. And therefore, this means all of their supply chains can easily be compromised. And they're all worried about another SolarWinds attack because the
Uh,
platform in which you develop code and the vulnerability is really drastic. It is a password reset vulnerability where you can predict the token. So you can change somebody else's password and get in. So you can get in the administrator or the developer's account, and then you can change the code. So it's pretty gruesome because once that's happened, it would be hard to really be sure you cleaned up the mess.
so is this kind of like the zip attack, or in that type of category
I'm not
where
sure. Zip attack?
the one that we talked about a couple weeks ago where we think the
Oh,
Chinese
XG.
government,
XG,
yeah,
yes,
it's
yes.
yeah,
XG and SolarWinds were both supply chain attacks, yeah, where
yeah,
the real developers or somebody got it. That way they had to transfer the development authority. But yeah, developer gets in and now they can put poison in the code. Yeah.
yeah, yeah. Along with this, have you heard of talk, and I'm not sure who's behind this. I've not done a lot of research, but there's a push to get these unpaid pieces of code compensated for, kind of like artists with records. And they want to set up a fund where it's $250,000 or some fund that large companies pay, and it's much less money. But the whole idea is to get royalties to these people who've been maintaining these pieces of code for years at no cost or at no profit to them.
I see these things pop up every now and then, some way to fund them. One thing I've heard is that 90% of open source code is in fact written by professional corporate programmers who are getting paid on the job. A company like Microsoft will make a product, contribute to the open source community. So that seems like a far more sustainable model to me. Your open source code could be written by like Microsoft or Google coders. But I guess I'm a filthy American capitalist. All these schemes where someone is going to get paid, but they don't involve a purchase, just seem like bullshit to me. The fact is, if you're relying on charity, then pretty soon people will get tired of giving you charity. If you have to
Yeah,
make a business model where I give you something you want and you give me money, now that's a sustainable business.
yeah. And it's understandable, it's comprehensible.
Yeah,
When
and
you
then
have,
yeah,
yeah, when you have, I'm going to give you free software,
and then you'll
but
be
you
so
should pay
grateful you'll
me.
just hand me money later when you
Yeah,
don't have to. Mark
yeah,
Twain wrote a story about this. in one of his, he said there was the doctor that wouldn't make people pay their bills. So everybody started going to the doctor. It was great. And then nobody paid their bill. And then his like kids were wearing rags and he couldn't afford his rent and stuff. And he said, I felt really bad, but I didn't pay the bill either.
That's pretty funny.
Yeah,
But this all goes back to we talked off air about this a while back, but Bill Gates's letter to the Homebrew Computer Society wanting to
right.
be paid for software
That's right.
versus software should be open and free and for everybody.
Yeah, it's basically capitalism versus socialism.
Yeah, yeah,
And
yeah. Interesting, huh?
I think I I was talking to the head of a corporation we deal with, and he was talking. He said, "I want to get you on board. We're going to make this new product. We're going to give it away free to academics." And I said, you need to charge somebody. You need to make money. You can't be giving stuff away free until you're actually selling 90% of it for money. He said, "You sound like my board of directors." And I said, "Well, I guess this is my help I can offer you as a company." I agree with them. You have to make sure that mostly you charge money and then you can give away a little bit. That's how it works.
Yeah. Sam, I just finished listening to a podcast. I think it's American Movers or Shakers. If you're interested, or I'll look this up and we'll put it in the show notes. But it's about the story of Cisco. And Cisco began at Stanford by a bunch of computer support technicians and engineers that were maintaining the computer network on campus. And the problem that they had was that you had all these different systems, HP, IBM, that couldn't communicate with each other. And if you wanted to print a document and you had to go across campus to go over there you might be able to communicate with the computer, but the printer that's right in your office or your building, you couldn't be able to print there. So and Stanford, I believe at the time, had paid $200,000 to a company to develop what would become routers. And they spent 2 years and were unsuccessful. And this group of renegade, talented people were able to do it in 6 months.
Yeah.
And they, from what I understand from the story, ran sort of the first ad on what became the internet, and all these other schools starting to buy it. And they had the policy of, if you're from a school, it's $250,000. But if you're a large corporate customer, we're going to charge you $250,000, something like that.
Yeah. Well,
And
Scott, yeah, go ahead.
I was going to say, so it's just kind of interesting is here these guys are working for Stanford, wanted to give it away for free. Stanford said, no, 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 you have a day job. We're not going to produce routers or anything. So they went to venture capitalists. And I think from the story I recall, they went to 70 of them and none of them would fund them. And once they did get funded by, I believe it was Valentine and Sequoia Capital Group, I might be off on that, but doesn't matter. Let's just say it was Sequoia. They funded this. They pushed the founders out, essentially, at least the woman.
Uh,
And things kind of got bad. It was reminiscent of Steve Jobs and Apple, except she never returned. She could
yeah.
have been a multi-billionaire, but she wanted to wash her hands of Cisco. By that time, Cisco was doing well. She sold out her stock and just wanted to have nothing to do with it. And she went her own way. She went off.
Yeah, that's
Um,
the bad thing about the money people.
yeah, yeah. Interestingly enough, after getting screwed by, or from her words, getting screwed in this deal with the VCs, she went and started a fingernail polish company with a friend of hers, and it happened to screw her over just as she got screwed. So the woman sued her and only got $1 million, and she made millions off of the fingernail polish. She's now, I guess, I'm sure she's retired. She's living on the East Coast someplace, and she's got a farm. But very, very interesting story about Cisco. I did not know a lot of the behind the scenes and just the arguments that went on. But this is pretty typical of you have talented people with a different view versus we're here to make money.
Yeah. Well, these are the
Yeah.
kings of the earth, these are
Yep.
these titans. It's always been that just sort of trample over others and make huge things and think
Yeah.
big. And
Yeah.
I've always been an employee because I'd rather have just go off and do my own thing. But none of my
Well,
dreams involve controlling a lot of money or power. I remember I had a meeting with like big rich companies that wanted to donate money to. I said, I have no idea what I do with a lot of money. I don't have any product I want to make or any expansion. I just want to
right.
teach my classes. I'm just not one of those big thinkers.
Yeah. 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 I'll give you a link. We'll put this in the show note if people are interested. It's about a 5 hour podcast or multiple episodes to it. But I can tell you, it is a very interesting story, and kind of like they made a movie about Zuckerberg, right, not too long ago.
There
Or
was another one
well,
called Pirates of Silicon Valley,
yeah, yeah.
sort of thing. Yeah.
I mean, this would be an interesting one to turn into a movie. And I guess I take it back. I think it is being turned into a movie by Netflix. Come to think of it, now that 30 years or so has passed, they made a lot of footage at the time, meaning 30 years ago. They had a camera crew follow them around, and all that footage was recorded, never used. And now the person that created that footage is I guess making it into a movie for Netflix.
Yeah.
So another way, interesting story, kind of like Minkow and the architectural bandit. That's what I know him as. I think the
Yeah.
architect. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, there's a whole genre of true crime podcasts for this sort.
Yeah.
And
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 it, business and crime are very similar activities.
and sometimes the line is blurred, I would argue.
Very often. Yes.
Yeah. Yeah. All right, Sam, that's it for me. And
Yeah.
one last thing, any more on the Elon Musk terminations of Tesla employees?
No. Well, he was always in the headlines. One day he
Yeah.
terminated big divisions, like the charging division, like it doesn't matter, and his stock fell. The next day he made some deal to sell cars in China, and his stock went up again. So as long as you keep your name in the headlines, everything's fine, and he's doing it.
Yeah. Yeah, people hate him, but in a certain sense, you got to admire him. And
It's
I,
the
I
same as
think,
Donald Trump and J.R. Ewing being the man everybody loves to hate is another perfectly fine way to stay in the headlines.
but he is kind of a modern, Thomas Edison, Tesla, maybe.
Yeah.
Well, not Tesla. Tesla didn't make money.
No, but these the kings of the earth. These are the
Yeah, Edison or Ford, so one of those types, a type.
yeah,
If not, maybe a Rockefeller.
yep, the rich and powerful people
Yeah,
who
yeah,
basically are sort of playing like poker with the whole world, and we're like the chips.
yeah. Right, Rockefeller controlled oil, right? Gas, oil.
Yeah,
Elon's controlling the electrons in the charging network, at least in the US.
yep, and
So
space.
in space, some similarities there.
Yeah.
Anyway, I think this is a wrap unless you have something else.
No, that's it. And I'll have another one on Tuesday.
Yeah, we'll see you on Tuesday.
All right.